Hey you guys, I'm so excited to kick off day 1 of our Business of Coaching sneak peek. So I'm going to kick it off by sharing a little bit about my personal journey with you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Lanier, and I've been a coach with our company for next month will be 4 years, which is so bizarre to me. I feel like I just started. But I'm going to dive right in because, to be honest with you, I, from the beginning, thought I was better than Beachbody. I said no when before I was even presented with the fact that this could be a business. I was like, no way, I have no time for that. And most people don't know that this is actually my 3rd time having a coach account with Beachbody. The first 2 times I wanted to try out the products and the workouts, but I had no idea that there was an actual legit business behind this. I thought it was like a sales scheme, or like many people had a bad taste in my mouth from different MLM companies. I'm like, that's not me. Like, I will not lower myself to that level. Those were all of my things in my brain before I started. But here I am 4 years later. And the reason why I'm here, I think, is one of the most important aspects and elements to my business and why it's been so successful. So in order for you to fully understand the full scope of who I am and why I'm here, what I'm passionate about, I actually have to take you back to my 11th birthday. And I know that sounds probably so bizarre, but it was a life-changing, life-defining moment for me. On my 11th birthday, my dad and I, he took me for my birthday celebration. I had a softball practice an hour away. He took me on his motorcycle. We had an amazing time, went out to dinner together, and on our way back, we were hit by a drunk driver, head on. We were meta-flighted to separate trauma hospitals, and were not expected to make it through the night. Obviously I did, but I was in a coma for a week, and on life support, I required 5 different emergency surgeries to save my left leg because it was smashed between the motorcycle and the truck. And as I started to come out of my coma, I stayed in the hospital for another week or so, and then they moved me home in a hospital bed with 4 external rods coming out of my shin. I had a metal plate and 10 screws in my femur bone and my thigh. And I have a zipper scar that's over a foot long along the side of my thigh. And I was alive, though. And I was 11, so I was processing all that had happened. My dad seemed to be getting better. And a couple days after I got home, my mom walked in the room, and she looked awful. I vividly remember this day. I remember how red her face was. I remember telling her, like, you look like you're sick. Are you okay? And after her walked in my pastor, and then they brought my brother in, my little brother. He was about 5 at the time, and sat him down next to me, and she spoke the words that I will never forget. Jessica, Bobby, Daddy went to be with Jesus last night. And of course, she burst into tears. We burst into tears. And as a little girl, I could not understand why. He was getting better. And then fear kicked in. If he died, am I going to die? He was getting better. I'm getting better. But then he's not here. And it was a huge anxiety thing that I had to work through. Fast forward a few months, we justified his death, in a sense, in our minds by saying, well, he probably had brain damage, and he never would have wanted to live this way. He never would have wanted to be a vegetable, so maybe it's better. My dad was 6'7", ginormous man of all men of all men, and he never would have wanted to live at a limited capability of what he was capable of before. Then we got the autopsy results, and we learned that his brain function was normal, but he actually died from a malpractice incident, from an infection called peritonitis. And what happened is a couple days before he passed away, he was coming out of his coma, and you're really agitated when that happens. and he was supposed to have a sitter with him, and they stepped out of the room for a second, and he pulled out his feeding tube. And the nurse, it was 4th of July weekend, didn't want to bother the doctor, and she decided just to put in a tube and continue the feeding. As you can see where this is going, it was not placed correctly, and it caused the infection, and they didn't pay attention to the signs until it was too late. That was actually what killed my dad. And so it took me a lot of years, to be honest, to figure out what really motivated me, because I knew I was in a hospital bed for probably 6 months. After that, I couldn't walk for a year, but I knew that I wanted to do something with my life that made a difference. I wanted to be there for people when they were in their darkest moments, when they were really struggling. I wanted to be able to prevent something like that from happening ever again. Not ever again, but something like that from happening, even if it was just one person that I could maybe save. So I identified later in my adult life, prevention has always been a huge motivating factor for me. Prevention and caring for people in their darkest moments and helping them get through it. Because I had incredible people around me, but then I also had horrible experiences with different medical professionals. And I realize now, that my dad died from 2 100% preventable acts. Someone getting behind the wheel under the influence, and someone making a negligent medical decision. Those 2 things, 100% preventable, did not have to happen, right? And so as I kind of made decisions, I very much remember laying in a hospital bed, I have 7 cousins, wrapping them and mummifying them in gauze and thinking like, I'm going to be a doctor. That's what I'm going to do with my life. I know by the grace of God, I chose, I'm going to make something with my life from this circumstance. I'm not going to let my circumstances, the lemons that life's thrown me, define me as a victim. I'm going to overcome them. I will go back and play softball again. I'm going to play in the Olympics. That was a driver of mine. And that was really my motivating force moving forward. My dad didn't get to live a full life. He passed away at 32, which is insane. But I have a chance, so I'm going to make him proud. I decided then I was going to be a doctor until a couple years later, my pediatrician talked me out of it. He was like, don't become a pediatrician. That's what I wanted to do. And so I switched my careers. At that point, I knew at around 13 years old that I was going to be a nurse. I knew I wanted to be there to care for people. I wanted to help them through hardship. And so as soon as I graduated high school, I looked for schools that had a softball team because I was very much into softball. That was a pitcher and that was like my life. And had a nursing program, and I was looking for Christian schools. And I ended up going to Point Loma Nazarene University, had all those things, and it was on the beach, which was amazing. So went straight into college after graduating high school, joined the softball team and the nursing program, and was stressed the F out. I ended up with heart problems. Literally, my doctor had to write me a note that said, Jessica cannot run for the next month until her cardiac test comes back, because I had the whole 9, like numbness, tingling down my left arm, chest pain, chest pressure, difficulty breathing. I had horrific anxiety. Through college, I had a lot of health problems. I ate healthier than any of my college friends. I exercised. I was a college athlete, right? And I had the worst digestive issues. No one could tell me why. They just kept giving me, here's Prilosec, here's Tums, keep popping those. I had acid and food reflux so bad at like 19, 20, 21. I remember vividly going out to eat frozen yogurt with my friends and being so mortified because I felt like I had to burp, and instead a mouthful of yogurt came out and onto the ground with mucus, and it was so gross. And that doesn't happen to 19 and 20-year-olds, But that was my reality. In my dorm room, I would be sitting holding my belly, just like in so much pain, looking like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant. And I didn't know what was wrong. I had debilitating anxiety where I thought I was going to die and I was going to pass out, where nobody was around me and no one was going to find me and I was going to stop breathing and die. That was my reality. And my hormones were a complete mess. I actually stopped having a period for years. It was like 5 or 6 years that I didn't have one. I went to the doctor and she's like, well, dear, at 20 years old, you have the estrogen levels of a 55-year-old woman. And I'm like, okay, I've always been solutions oriented as a person. And so why? Why? Well, we don't know, but we're going to put you on birth control. Well, I'm not having sex, so I don't need to be on birth control. Sure, you're not, college student. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. I'm like, I have never had sex at this point. And she was like, okay, well, we're just going to put you in birth control. That's how we fix your hormones. And it didn't make sense to me. I didn't have a birth control deficiency. And so through my own health journey, I started learning like I was not getting the answers that I was hoping that Western medicine would provide for me. And I was miserable. I had brain scans. They thought I had a brain tumor. That was very scary. Turns out I didn't, thank the Lord. And I started researching different methods like nutrition and, sorry, my husband's working outside, Chinese medicine a little bit and different herbs. I went to chiropractors and talked to naturopaths. Graduated college, moved to Spain, of all places, got married right out of college and to someone who I met there. We dated for 3 years, got married, moved to Spain where he was a professional basketball player. My health problems continued. And I felt like a fraud because here I am, a registered nurse, fully certified, got my bachelor's in nursing, passed NCLEX, and I was not working because my paperwork wouldn't transfer over there, and I had horrible health problems. Here I am, this medical professional now, with my degree, and I had horrific health problems. So I decided I had this passion. I was starting to learn a lot about nutrition, and I went to school online and became a certified holistic health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Learned a ton, started a blog, started doing healthy recipes, went gluten-free, eliminated all sugar even though I hadn't been eating any. And tried all these different diets and cleanses, and it helped a little bit. I was taking so many supplements. You guys, at one point I was taking 100 pills a day, all supplements I was muscle tested for. And for a year and a half I did that, and I felt a little bit better, but still wasn't great. Fast forward, this was in 2000, I don't even remember the year, so I'm not going to try. Fast forward a few years, and my husband at the time, we moved to Kansas. He was retired from professional basketball, decided to coach in college, and at that point he decided he didn't want to be married anymore. And I know that I'm going into a lot of my story, but I want you to understand a little bit more about my tenacity and where my passion's at. I fought for my marriage, fought to save it for months, and I finally realized that I couldn't make him want to love me anymore. I couldn't make him want to be in our marriage as much as I wanted to, and as much as I told him this isn't an option. And hearing the words from the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally that I don't love you anymore, I'm not attracted to you anymore, you're great, it's not you, it's me, but this isn't working, was very hard. And again, I had that moment in my life where I had to choose. Am I going to be a victim of this? Honestly, you guys, it was the worst pain I'd ever felt. More than losing my dad. It was the form of rejection that you never expect, I got blindsided with. And it was extremely difficult for me to process. I had to move back with my parents. I had no job, I had no home, I had no anything. My identity was wrapped up in my marriage, essentially, and that was broken. And I remember sobbing in my closet at my parents' house downstairs and being like, God, I'm going to praise you through this storm because I don't know what else to do. And I've seen you redeem horrible situations before. I have no doubt you can do that with this, but you need to help me because this hurts really bad. And that mindset of really leaning into my faith, that's always been really what's gotten me through, and knowing that there's opportunity for a different kind of life than what's in front of me, I think is what sparked me to start to believe in this a little bit in the beginning. So I'll fast forward you a little bit further. And I met my now husband, who's amazing. Our marriage is just like, I never thought this could be possible. We've been married now for almost 5 years. We have 2 babies and another one on the way. And he went through a very similar situation with his first marriage as well. And we fell in love very quickly. We talked through things very quickly, like what we want and expected, and got married. We moved back to our hometown. We're from the same hometown, and I went to work in a prison. And I know that sounds super bizarre, especially for someone as bubbly as me, but with what I had learned at that point in my life, I had a hard time working in a hospital. And I didn't have a ton of experience working in a hospital, and I had been out of nursing school for a while now. And so I I loved actually correctional nursing when I got into it. And so I jumped into that, loved my job at first, and plugged away. It was a great job, got paid a ton of money to do what I might have to do. And then we got pregnant. And we had our first son, and I remember like my personality, you guys, I was ASB president in high school. I've always been over involved in everything. Captain of the softball team, leader of youth group. And I was like, I would never want to be a stay-at-home mom. Nothing against women who do it, but like that's not for me. I don't want to work from home. I don't want to stay at home. I'm a go-getter. I want to be in a job somewhere. Then I had my kid, and I was like, I can never leave you. And so here's where Beachbody comes in. I had horrific back pain throughout the last trimester of my pregnancy, and I was put on bed rest for premature labor symptoms for a while. Had him, I thought my back pain would go away after I had my son, and it didn't. I could barely hold him. I could not bend down to put him in his crib. I could not get up myself from a lying position. And I went to the chiropractor, we did x-rays, and I found out I had a moderate to severe degenerative disc in my low back. And when I asked, what do I do to fix that? They told me, you can't. Like, there's not really anything you could do. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm only 29 years old. At the time I was. I don't degenerate. Like, that's not an option. And so I went home, and I was determined. I have to fix this because I have to be able to play sports with my kid. I have to be able to run around, and we wanted more children, and they told me it would get exacerbated with every pregnancy. I was like, that's not an option. Sorry. I'm very stubborn. So literally, I think it was the next day, I saw this random chick's before and after picture on Facebook. And she had just had a kid, and she had an incredible transformation. And literally, the thought was, I want her mom bod. You know, like, I want her body. Like, that's amazing. Go you. So I reached out to this total stranger who I never had seen posts from before. We had 0 friends in common. I'm in California. She was in Boston. And I was like, look, I want to do the program that you just got out of the test group for. I want the coach membership because I want the cheapest possible. I want nothing to do with coaching because I'm going back to work in a month or so, and I have a new baby, and I work 40 to 60 hours a week in prison where I don't have access to anything. Like, I don't want anything else on my plate. I don't have time. And here's the flavor of Shakeology I want, whatever. She's like, okay, no problem. Also, hi, nice to meet you, stranger. And I got signed up with a coach discount, and she sent me a very very simple Word document. And she said, hey, Jessica, I know you don't want to coach, but if you know anyone who would want to do this with you, here's how you would get them signed up with you as their coach, and it could help you like pay for your challenge pack and make some side income. And I was like, literally a light bulb went on in my brain. And I was like, I love helping people. Anyone could do a 22-minute workout. Everyone should be using Shakeology. I researched the crap out of it, and it's really good. Okay. Mother-in-law, mom, sister-in-law, best friend, do this with me. Let's work out together. I want to get in shape after a baby, and I think it'd be fun to do this program together. They're like, yeah, sure, $140, no problem. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to need your credit card, your social security number. Like, at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, I'll just sign you up for you. And within my first literally first 2 or 3 days before I got anything in the mail, I knew nothing. I'd signed up for new people. And my coach, who's Elizabeth Hartkey, my very good friend now, reached out to me and was like, who are you? Like, I thought you didn't want to do this. And she's like, look, we need to get on a call because I want you to understand a little bit more about what this is. And I was like, all right, whatever. I'll humor you. So we jump on a phone call and she asked me 2 questions that completely changed my life. And these are the 2 questions I'm going to ask you today. She said, now, Jessica, if you could, I know you're happy, you have a new kid, you like your job, because I did it, honestly. You're in a great marriage, you have a house, car, white picket fence, right? But if you could create your dream life 1 year from now, what would you want to paint that picture to be? What would that look like? Financially, time freedom, your job, like your relationships, everything. What would that look like? And then I'm going to ask you the same question, but I want you to think a little bit further ahead to 5 years from now. And she ended with, dream big, sister. And I was like, okay, whatever. Easy. And then I sat down at my kitchen table with my husband and we went over this and I felt like an idiot because I did not know what to write. I was like, well, I'm working in a prison right now. I probably wouldn't, that's not like the dream job. Let's take that off. I didn't know how to dream big. No one ever asked me a question like that. If I could have anything, if I could decide the amount of money that I made every month or every year, if I could work from home or work outside the home, if I could raise my kid or pay someone else to do it. And all of a sudden I started thinking like, all right, well, I want to be with my son every single day, but I really want to make money still. I have to. At the time, I made almost twice as much as my husband, so I couldn't just quit my job. That wasn't an option financially for us. And so, like, I would want to make this amount of money a year from now in order to be able to quit my job. Or, well, we'd want to pay off my student loans, which I still had from college. And I started thinking about these things. Then 5 years from now, I was like, geez, I don't even know what to put. But I remember saying, if there was a way that 5 years from now I could maybe match my nursing income, that would be insane. Like, that would be unreal working from home. But honestly, that's like, I really know that that's not possible. I feel silly writing it. And she messaged me back. She's like, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea what you just stumbled upon. And she told me, like, here's how you get started. Here's my best recommendation for you. I told her I don't have any time. I'm working in prison. She's like, no problem. You can still do this on the side. And I dove right in. And here I am 4 years later. Matched my nursing income. I have 2 babies. I have another one growing inside of me. We've paid off all my student loans within the first year, I want to say, just from this part-time business. And I love my job. So freaking love my job. It is the most, I finally found what I was created to do, and preventing suffering and helping people in a way that's tangible to do with a family where I don't have to recreate the wheel. So that's kind of my story. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but I wanted to share the details with you because I am a registered nurse and I am a certified holistic health coach. And I honestly, like I said, I thought I was better than this company. And then I started researching and understanding, like, this is everything. And I'll talk about this a little bit more, but like, this is everything that I believe in and a holistic approach to wellness. You need all of these things. You need intentional nutrition, which the nutrition programs are incredible that we have. You need fitness we are meant to move. And I was a busy working mom. I could do a 22-minute workout. That worked for me, right? I needed supplementation because I was exhausted. I was sleep deprived. I had stress coming at every angle. And I knew that my digestive system, my endocrine system, everything needed the support that was in Shakeology. And I needed the community, and I needed someone to like bounce questions off of. And we get all of this. We get all of this as a coach, but as a coach, that's what's in our toolbox to give other people. So I'm going to ask you those 2 questions. 1 year from now, if you could have your dream life, where would you be? And then 5 years from now, income, debt, relationships, time freedom, schedule, your job. Where would you be living? What would your dream house look like? Would you own a lake house? Like, if you could have anything, what would it be? I'm going to do a post in here, and I would love for you to share some of your dreams with us.